Chris Miles was able to retire twice by the time he was 39 years old, but he's not content to just enjoy his own financial freedom and peace of mind. Chris wants you to have your own ripple effect so you can live free today. He's not the financial advisor you expected. He's the anti-financial advisor you deserve. He's jumping behind the mic right now, ready to make waves. Here's Chris Miles.
Hello, my fellow Ripplers. This is Chris Miles, your cash flow expert and anti-financial advisor, welcoming you out for a wonderful show that's for you and about you. Those of you who work so freaking hard for your money, and you're ready for your money to start working harder for you now. You want that freedom, that cash flow, that prosperity today, not 30 or 40 bazillion years from now, but right now. So you can have that life that you love, to do what you love, to be with those that you love. And it's not just about having that prosperity and cash flow and that comfort and convenience, which of course is the ideal, right? But it's so much more than that, because as you become financially liberated, you have the opportunity to bless more lives too. You can create a ripple effect through people's lives. And as a rippler, that is the true calling you get, is that you get to be an awesome, positive impact in the world for good. So guys, I'm proud to have you guys here being a rippler with me. Thank you for letting me create a ripple effect through your lives as we do this show. Hey, as a quick reminder, check out our website, moneyripples.com. There's a great book on there called Beyond Rice and Beans, 7 Secrets to Free Up Cash Today, if you want to find ways to create and find more money in your situation now. And so go ahead and check that out.
Hey, are you looking for another great podcast to listen to? One about investing and not only just investing, but learning about cool deals like investing in apartments that does not require you to have to be an accredited investor or have $1 million. Hey, if you want to check that out, go check out my friend Lane Kawaoka's site, simplepassivecashflow.com. He's got a great podcast also called Simple Passive Cash Flow that you can check out on YouTube, iTunes, or whatever your favorite podcast app is. If you want some great education and to learn about great ways to invest in other types of deals without, again, needing a ton of money, check it out, simplepassivecashflow.com, or look up Simple Passive Cash Flow on YouTube or your podcast app. Check it out.
All right, so on today's show, I've got a special guest here that actually was referred to me. And again, you guys already know, I don't bring on posers. I bring on people that I feel are actually like legit, that do, that really practice what they preach and they do what they do. And so I'm bringing on here a special guest, Scott Smith. Now Scott, one thing that's interesting about him is that one, he's actually an attorney. Two, he actually has a personality, which is also good. Because if you've ever had, if you've ever had accountants or attorneys on here, they're usually the driest people you could possibly have, and they're not easy to interview. But I've been definitely privileged to have Scott here with us. Now, Scott, what he teaches you to do, he learns how to use free your time, protect your assets, and create lasting wealth with asset protection. He's also a long-time real estate investor, like some of you are on here as well. Now, when a close friend of his lost over $3 million in a lawsuit, Scott decided to leave his litigation practice to help people protect themselves from frivolous lawsuits. His law firm, which is Royal Legal Solutions, they now help thousands of real estate investors and entrepreneurs protect more than $1.2 billion in assets. So today we're going to have Scott here really to kind of go in depth of, first and foremost, how do you protect your assets? And then two is what are the kind of ways to protect yourself, and especially what kind of corporations? Because you guys ask me this question constantly. You're always like, what are the corporations I need for my business or for my assets? Well, guess what, guys? That's what we have Scott in here for. So Scott, welcome to our show.
Oh, it's really great to be here. And it's my privilege to go ahead and just kind of share all the secrets from it with you and with the audience about everything that I've seen from just really making it my study over the last 6-7 years into how do you actually build wealth, and not just build it, but also how do you keep it? There's some really big things that come up in this, guys, and you just hit it in there. It's like, I got into this because I had a friend of mine who lost over $3 million in real estate, and he was very well insured, and it's all because he owned property in his personal name. And it was after that I started to learn more about it, about like, how do rich people operate? What do they do? And I found out that rich people have a couple of different things that are different than the rest of us, is that they don't own things and they don't pay taxes, and they always try to stay anonymous whenever they can. So it makes it look like that they qualify for food stamps, even though they have more money than all the rest of us, right?
That's right.
And it's actually, possible for all of us to be able to have that extremely high levels of protection, and save taxes and streamline our operations in the process. So I'm happy to talk with you about that today.
Yeah, you really support one thing I say a lot on several episodes of this show is that the wealthy own everything, or really the wealthy control everything, but they own nothing, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
they really,
100% right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like it's usually through corporate structures and trusts and things like that they used to, own, quote unquote, those things, but they really are controlling it while they personally don't have that liability. They look like every other average Joe almost when you look at their personal ownership, right?
100%. And the reason that they do that is because they're about controlling their lives and what does lasting growth look like and long-term growth look like, right? So most of the problems that we have in life are not, aren't absolutes, right? And what I mean by that is, your life doesn't change much after you make more than $70,000 a year. Your relative happiness actually stays about the same. Where your life actually gets impacted the most is the whipsaws. It's the delta, the change between the high point and the low point, right? These are things like why divorce, lawsuits, etc., are such horrible things, like up there with the worst things that can possibly happen to your life. It's because of the change from the high to the low. So what rich people do that's actually really smart is they use these structures. They use proper insurance. They use asset protection structures like LLCs and series LLCs, and they use trust structures to make it so that when the worst case scenarios possibly happen to them, that it's a very small change. And that's how they're focused on how to have a great life and a great consistent uphill, everything goes up and to the right. It's not super fast, but it's always up and to the right.
Yeah. The thing I remind people, because offense is always sexy, right? When you're making money, and whether it's, more income or more wealth in general, right? But I'll tell you, like, without that defense, I mean, why would we spend all that time building up all these assets only to lose it in one life event, one situation that would take it all away, right? Like, why would we waste all that time doing that? We've got to have something like this to protect us.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and you got to do defense in a couple of different ways, right? You need defense from lawsuits, right? Because you got to have those protections in place to protect your lawsuits, because lawsuits are a business with attorneys, right? And attorneys are out there trying to make money off of people.
Yeah.
And the bad part about this is that, my background in being a litigation attorney, before I got into just helping real estate investors, was about suing insurance companies that didn't pay out claims. And that's when I realized that insurance companies really just can't be trusted. It's always great to have insurance, but you just don't trust them to protect you. They're a profit-seeking corporation. And
there's just one line of defense, right? One
line of defense. And it's actually your first line of defense. It's you're going to be your liability policies and your umbrella policy, right? But to be able to get that next chunk of defense that's on that value point, that's where you're going to start using a series LLC structure and anonymity trust to be able to get that extra protection, because that's how you put the law in your favor, right? You make it so difficult for you to sue that they don't want to go after you. It's kind of like that old adage, like you don't got to be faster than the bear. You just got to be faster than the friend with you, right? It's because you just need them to go after somebody else and not you, right? So you just make yourself really hard to eat from that perspective. Secondarily, you got to have defense on your taxes, right? Taxes are the number one way that you lose money. Now, there's nothing you can do if you're a W-2 employee. The way our tax laws are structured is that you're totally screwed if you're a W-2 employee, right?
Right.
However, if you have self-employment or 1099 income, there's all kinds of things you can do. And I'm telling you, there's actually ways that we're looking at right now to be able to reduce people's tax liabilities down to zero, right? And I'm serious. It's actually down to zero as a possibility in certain circumstances that we go into. But for the average Joe that's out there, right, if you're not using LLC structures, S corporation tax elections, having your extra income that's above $132,000 going to C corporations and having that C corporation loan you back the funds so you can take advantage of being taxed at a 21% tax rate. If you're not using solo 401ks and self-directed IRAs to shelter money inside of retirement vehicles, you're just not even hitting the low-hanging fruit that's out there to be able to save you money on the defense that you need to play.
Let's talk about those corporations. Let's talk about three in particular: C Corp, S Corp, which I know they're selections, but C Corp, S Corp, and then of course LLCs. When's the right time to use each of those? Like which circumstances would you use any of those?
Yeah, so $0 to $50,000 in yearly income, you're always just going to use an LLC, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have that LLC taxed as a pass-through entity, which means you just take all of the income onto the Schedule E of your personal return. And you say, well, what the heck am I doing that for? That's not saving any money on taxes, and I don't have enough for people here to come and sue. Yeah, that's right, but what you also have is a credit score, right? And you need a barrier from the people that you're doing business with in the outside world to keep them from being able to sue you, from a contract that went sideways or an email that you sent that they misunderstood, and all of a sudden they want to sue you for fraud. Even if they don't have anything, they'll destroy your credit score by filing a lawsuit. And you need an LLC there to prevent them from being able to do that, because your credit score is your first thing that you have to have. It's your first asset that you need to be able to start acquiring assets. After you get above $50,000 in your annual revenue, that's where you're going to take your LLC and you're going to file an S corporation tax election at the end of that year. And then you're going to take the money partly as employee wages, being the sole employee of your LLC, and partly as dividend income from your S corporation. What that's going to do is be able to save you from self-employment taxes. Overall, that cuts your tax rate down by about 8 to 10%. Right? By just being able to save you money based upon the self-employment tax. That's going to be your strategy from $50,000 to $132,000. Once you get above $132,000, what you do is you establish a separate C corporation, completely separate from your S corporation. Your C corporation then provides a consulting service, right? So insert XYZ consulting service, whatever one you want. Those fees that are above $132,000 are charged by the C corporation. So if you made $232,000, the C corporation is going to charge $100,000. Now the C corporation has $100,000 in income. C corporations are taxed at a 21% tax rate. So you're going to pay that 21% tax. And then the question becomes well, what the heck do I do with that cash now? Well, if you want that cash, what you do is you have the C corporation loan it to you on a 40-year note. And because it's a loan to you, it's not income, so you don't have to pay the double tax onto it. And that's how you're going to be able to cut your tax liability in half once you get above $132,000.
And that's always the big fear with C Corps. People always say, yeah, but I can get double tax on this money. Why wouldn't I just go with S Corp, right?
Yeah, 100%, right? And so, but that's where the S corporation kind of peters out. The self-employment tax thing peters out after 132,000. Now, when you start looking at, those are going to be the ways you're going to save money inside of just the corporate structure itself, right? And this is going to be really important for you. And having that income at a low tax rate, if you need that cash to be able to show the income because you're going to be acquiring assets, right? You're going to need that cash for your debt to income ratios whenever you're applying for loans. Another thing you can do though, on top of that, is establishing a solo 401k, your own personal retirement account that's underneath one of your corporate entities, typically underneath your LLC that's being taxed as an S corporation. That allows you to shelter up to $56,000 a year into a retirement account that you can control, and you can self-direct all the investments. You can buy real estate with it, you can buy stocks, you can buy anything you want to, with a few exceptions. Right? And you can even loan yourself up to half of the value of your solo 401k back to yourself, right? So if you need the cash, you can actually go in there, kind of raid the piggy bank. You got 5 years to repay it at a 5% interest that you're paying back into your own retirement account.
Okay, got it. Now, so tell me, what about somebody who's saying, all right, I've got properties, naturally, what would you recommend for them? Like, how would they set up their corporate structures for buying properties, even if they're just starting out?
Yeah. So the things that we just talked about was saying, okay, here's where you're going to have the LLC. The LLC taxes the S corporation. This is how you form, a separate C corporation. Here's how you form the retirement account. That's how to protect everything that we typically refer to at Royal Legal Solutions as your active income. That's the things that you're going to be trading time for money. The other thing that we focus on is what's your passive income or your horizontal income. You can call it horizontal because, when you're laying just down on the couch, you're making money, right? That all comes from assets, right? So typically that's going to be real estate. Another great asset to look into is like oil and gas infrastructure. You can make 12% plus returns, buying those types of assets. And you might even know other assets that I should be looking into that I don't know about in here. But what all those other assets are, we typically always use a series structure. So for 49 states, everywhere besides California, because California has some crazy laws, we can use a series LLC. It's going to be formed in Delaware, Texas, Nevada, or Wyoming. We can form those using trust structures to be the public-facing entity, and all formed through a law firm. So that way, all the information regarding the ownership is all anonymous, and it's all protected by the attorney-client privilege. The series structure becomes exceptionally important and cool because you can manage everything through one bank account, one EIN number, and one tax return, as long as you have appropriate accounting records that has the individual child series designated with its own, income and expenses, right? So you have a parent company that's filed. It can create as many children as it wants that are all underneath it. So you'll have child series A, child series B, child series C, all underneath this parent series LLC that's created with the state. They're all free to create, and it's infinitely scalable at no additional cost. And you can compartmentalize every single asset you own inside of its own child series, such that if there's ever a lawsuit against one property, they can't go after any of the other properties. So what you end up having here is kind of like is referred to as a two-company structure. You have one company that's your company that does all of your active business operations, that generates all of this income, right? And that's going to be that LLC that's taxed as an S corporation. Serves as that public-facing piece. Now you have this completely separate anonymous series LLC. We're able to have to only pay to maintain one entity each year, but it allows you to hold all of your assets anonymously and compartmentalize them. So that way, in the event of litigation, your worst case scenario is that you only lose one property. And this becomes exceptionally important when you're looking to fight a lawsuit, because when you can compartmentalize every single asset and you personally don't own any assets anymore, and that the company that they did business with, that separate operating company that they did business, doesn't own assets anymore, pretty soon there's not enough money there to come after for people to think that it's a good idea to sue you, right? There's the pot of gold just isn't big enough to justify the expense of the lawsuit. And that's how you really get attorneys to just go away, because you don't actually have to be right on the law. You don't have to be right on the facts. You just make it a bad business decision for them to sue you.
Right. Exactly. What would somebody do like that? Because obviously with owning properties, that's a big thing, especially when there's equity. What about those that maybe just lend money? Like maybe they're lending money to an institution where they pay them a certain, fixed interest return or something like that. I get a lot of people say, okay, like I know I don't get any tax advantages with this money, but where, do I protect it? Do I protect it when I'm investing in these companies or not? What would you say to that?
So anytime that you have to sue somebody because they don't pay a note, right, they can countersue you, right? And what are they going to countersue? Well, that extent of that countersuit can be the full extent of whatever the entity is that's suing them. So if that's you personally, it's all of your personal assets. If you have everything inside of just a single LLC, and that has other notes, other loans that you've made, any other assets that are in there, well, those are all assets that they could take in part of that countersuit if you guess wrong. Right? Lawsuits are always a gamble. There's no such thing as a zero liability, even when you're attacking somebody in a lawsuit, because the first thing that somebody does when you sue them is they countersue you, right? Because that's a negotiation tactic. And it might only be like a 10% chance or a 20% chance. But unless you have things compartmentalized, that 20% is a viable threat, right? And if we can use a series LLC structure and we can compartmentalize everything that we own, why in the world would we not do that if it doesn't cost us anything to have the extra protection?
Right. So what you're saying is, even if you have hard money lending and you're like, I'm just lending money, still, if that company gets sued, that could even pass on through you as being someone who's investing in that company.
Right. 100%. Right.
Yeah. Crazy.
My goal is to say, it's like, you know what? I don't see rich people taking on extra risks, as long as it doesn't cost them more time or more money, you just have to be a little bit more savvy and a little bit more organized.
Right. Absolutely. And that kind of, I think a good final point too, is you say you set up all these things, you set up these series LLCs and everything else, but you don't cross your T's or dot your I's, what's going to happen?
Yeah. You got to maintain everything correctly. Right. And this is why we have the yearly minutes, and you got, have to do all of your yearly filings with the LLCs. And I tell you, a lot of times when people come into Royal Legal Solutions, they don't have a lot of this stuff maintained correctly. I mean, they set it up right, maybe in the very beginning, and maybe it was right. But then, along the way, like life happens, right? So that's where we're really different than the law firm is because we don't just set things up and then cast people out on their own, right? We have ways to be able to not just have the setup, but also have all of the ongoing maintenance taken care of, have like biannual reviews to be able to review people's operations and their assets to ensure that they're tax optimized, that they're updating their estate plan appropriately, that they have a resource to be able to talk to for any questions that they have that doesn't cost them anything to talk to high-level staff. And we do everything through a really, really low monthly membership, because even though we have about 2,000 clients all over the country, there's really only about 50 people at any given time that actually need to talk to us, right? So it makes it a way to have affordably always have professional advice without being like, oh my God, I wonder if I'm going to get billed $500 for this 15-minute phone call, which keeps everybody from talking. That's what makes us really different. And I would encourage everybody to look at, whether you're looking, at my company at Royal Legal Solutions or other different legal or tax providers that are out there, just ensure yourself with whatever professionals that you're looking at to always make sure that they make money the same way that you make money. Because anybody will take your money to go do stuff, right? But if somebody makes money the same way that you make money, they're going to know the intricacies of not just how to actually do that job, but how is it going to play out with all the operations and other things that are going to come up.
Yeah. You definitely don't want an attorney that has never done real estate investing before themselves. And you're like, hey, well, help me protect my real estate. You want someone who says, hey, here's what I learned, even just from my own experience. Here's some things to avoid, right?
Yeah, or like an attorney, if you had a dental practice, right? If you could find an attorney that used to be a dentist, that's a great guy to hire,
Right. Yep. Well, awesome. Scott, I really appreciate your time here today. Really quick, give them just, how would they reach you? What's the best way they can reach out to you at your firm?
Yeah, the best thing to do is just go to royallegalsolutions.com, or you can text Royal, ROYAL, to 474747, and that'll kick you out the link to be able to go to the website, get the ebook. That's the top 10 things you need to know to protect your assets. The website's really cool, though, because we actually just rolled out at the very top of the banner, there's a take a quiz, and get a price. And what we do with that is an easy way for you to give us quick 8 questions so we can have a meaningful conversation with you from the very first conversation that we have. And on that page, I've actually put an hour and 45 minutes of my videos where I walk through everything I know about asset protection, tax savings, estate planning, offshore trust, and how it all integrates together with diagrams to show you exactly this is how the structure works and why it works from start to finish, right? So It's all content. There's no fluff into that. And if you're looking for a crash course that would just blow your mind, people watch this thing like 2-3 times because it's that much content, right? And it's just like going to law school, but it'll put you in the top 1%. You're going to know more than any attorney in your area if you just go to the royallegalsolutions.com website, take the quiz at the top and then watch that video.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll have that in the show notes too, so everybody can click on that. They don't have to worry about spelling it wrong, especially when there's 2 L's next to each other, right? So
yeah. Or you can just text Royal, the ROYL, to 474747, and I'll text you over a link, and I'll take you right there. That's another option for you.
Awesome. Well, Scott, I really appreciate your time and your expertise. I guarantee that people are going to listen to this at least 2 or 3 times just to make sure they picked up even little tidbits of what they got there. So it was awesome. Thank you so much for your time and your expertise today.
Yeah, it was great being here. Thank you so much.
You bet. Everybody else, hey, protect your assets, dang it. Like, this is important. Why build up all this wealth only to have it taken away? So take to heart what Scott has said here today. Apply that to your life. Go and make it a wonderful and prosperous week, and we'll see you later.
Visit us online at moneyripples.com for more resources to help you fix money leaks and get your money working harder for you now.